You wake up again, heart racing, palms damp, a lingering sense of unease. It's still dark outside, but not the kind of darkness that soothes. This one feels charged, familiar in a way that unsettles you. And not because of what just happened, but because it's happened before. It was the same dream. Again, maybe you were falling. Maybe someone was chasing you. Or maybe you were back in your childhood home, only it wasn't quite right. The hallway stretched too far, the light didn't work, the doors never opened the way they should. Or maybe you can't even remember the details. Just the feeling. That eerie sense that you've been here before, even if you can't explain why. And the strange part? You have, not once. Not twice, but over and over again. Across weeks, months, sometimes years. The same dream, or some shadow of it, keeps returning. Morphing slightly, maybe. But always echoing something that won't leave you alone. We're told dreams are random. That they're just our brains sorting things out, cleaning up emotional clutter, neurological noise. But recurring dreams don't feel random, they feel targeted. Like something, or someone, is trying to tell you something, and yet you wake up, dismiss it, and go on with your day. Again, what if that's the mistake? Across ancient cultures, recurring dreams weren't dismissed, they were revered. People believed they were signs, messages, prophecies, sometimes even warnings. You didn't ignore a dream that kept coming back. You listened, because it meant the psyche was knocking on a door you refused to open. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious side of you that holds everything you reject. Not just your fears, but your desires, your potential. Everything you've exiled from the version of you that the world sees. Jung believed the dream wasn't just some inner monologue. It was a confrontation between who you pretend to be and who you really are. Sigmund Freud had a different theory. He saw dreams as secret wish fulfillment, disguised in symbols because the conscious mind couldn't handle the truth. But both Freud and Jung agreed on one thing: the dream is not meaningless. It is a message, coded in metaphor, delivered while your defenses are down. But maybe it's not just psychology. Maybe there's something older at play. Ancient traditions viewed dreams as portals, places where the boundaries between the self and the sacred, between the real and the unreal, were thin. Indigenous cultures saw dreams as journeys, visions, a language beyond logic. You didn't just have a dream. You entered it. And it, in turn, entered you. So what does it mean when a dream keeps coming back? It means something hasn't been heard. Recurring dreams are not about sleep. They are about waking. They are signals, psychic sirens, demanding attention. And every time you ignore them, they return louder, stranger, more urgent. What if the reason the dream won't let go is because deep down you haven't let go? What if you're still clinging to something unspoken, unresolved? What if you already know what the dream means and that's exactly why you won't face it? That's the unsettling possibility, because maybe your dream isn't some chaotic hallucination. Maybe it's the only part of your life still trying to tell you the truth. Not the polished truth you post online. Not the socially acceptable truth you share in conversation, but the raw, unfiltered kind. The kind that unsettles you. The kind you try not to think about during the day. But the kind that comes for you every night. Over time, you may stop noticing it. You may forget the details. You may brush it off as nothing, but it will come back. Again and again and again, because a recurring dream doesn't want to scare you. It wants to save you. The question is, are you willing to listen? Because until you do, the dream won't stop. Long before we had brain scans and therapy apps, we had dreams. And we feared them, worshipped them, followed them into battle, or turned to them in times of grief. For most of human history, dreams weren't side effects of sleep. They were sacred. In ancient Egypt, dreams were thought to be messages from the gods. They built temples dedicated to dream incubation, sacred places where priests slept in search of visions, healing, or guidance from higher powers. Your dream wasn't just yours. It was cosmic, divine. The Mesopotamians carved their dreams into clay tablets, the oldest dream journal in human history. They didn't ask what a dream meant psychologically. They asked what it warned of. Was it an omen? A sign from the gods? Or a glimpse of what fate had already set in motion? In ancient Greece, dreams weren't seen as internal at all. They were visitors, external beings that entered the sleeper's mind to deliver insight or prophecy. At the temple of Asclepius, those suffering from illness would lay down to sleep, hoping that healing would arrive through a dream, a vision, a sign. And if the dream came, it was interpreted by priests, because it wasn't just symbolic. It was sacred communication. Even in early Christianity and Judaism, dreams were spiritual battlegrounds, messages from angels, or temptations from demons. The dream space was a battlefield of good and evil where the soul was shaped and tested. This wasn't metaphorical. It was real, urgent, vital. Across indigenous cultures, dreams were more than just tools for healing or prophecy. They were woven into the rhythm of daily life. Among Native American tribes, dreams helped guide decisions, initiate rites of passage, and reveal one's purpose. The Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime, or Jukurpa, goes even deeper. It describes a timeless realm where all creation stories unfold simultaneously. To dream, in this context, is to enter the fabric of reality itself. What did all of these people know that we've forgotten? Those dreams are maps, not of the world outside, but of the world within. Not abstract riddles, but encoded guidance. Systems meant to help us navigate the most difficult terrain of all, the self. So what changed? Why, in the modern world, do we treat dreams like static, glitches, leftovers from the day? At best, curious symbols. At worst, nonsense. How did we go from worshiping dreams to ignoring them? It began when the West split the mind from the soul. With the rise of rationalism in the 17th century, dreams lost their status as bridges to the divine. Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, famously declared, "I think, therefore I am." And with that, he placed the thinking mind, the logical, conscious self, at the center of truth. Dreams, with all their chaos and contradiction, no longer fit. Science, increasingly dominant, demanded proof, structure, and reason. The mystical, the symbolic, the spiritual, all began to be pushed to the margins. Dreams were no longer doors to higher realms. They were demoted to neurological byproducts. Weird stories told by a sleeping brain, not sacred, not meaningful, just leftovers. This shift wasn't just philosophical. It was cultural. As industrialization rose, and with it, the modern obsession with productivity, dreams became a kind of waste. Sleep itself became a weakness, a thing to reduce, to optimize, to control. In a world driven by economic output, there was no room for wandering through the unconscious, but in silencing dreams, we didn't become more awake. We became more numb. Because even as the world told us dreams were meaningless, they didn't stop. They kept coming, whispering, looping, repeating, and deep down something in us still listens, still feels the pull of the irrational, the symbolic, the mysterious. We feel it in déjà vu, in those strange moments when waking life resembles a dream. In the goosebumps that rise for no reason. It's in the patterns we can't explain, the inner tensions we can't release, the quiet ache we carry for something unnamed. That's where the dream waits. The truth is, we didn't stop dreaming. We stopped believing the dream could matter. But belief doesn't decide the truth. Attention does. And the more you ignore the dream, the louder it knocks. That's why recurring dreams are different. They don't respect your rational dismissal. They bypass your logic entirely. They're the immune system of the psyche, returning again and again to warn you that something inside you is being ignored. In a culture that demands constant stimulation, the dream is the last place where stillness survives. In a system that rewards surface over depth, dreams are the one place you can't lie, you can't filter, you can't perform. In your dreams, you are naked. Maybe that's why we fear them. Not because they confuse us, but because they reveal. U.S. dreams don't follow your ego script. They follow the truth, the part of you that existed before language, before culture, before memory. The part of you that still remembers the sacred, and maybe, just maybe, that's why your dream keeps returning. Because it's not just yours. It's ancient. It's inherited. It's your soul, tracing its way back through forgotten maps of the night, hoping you'll finally decide to follow. Most people assume that when we fall asleep, our minds shut down or at least wander aimlessly. But the truth is far stranger. When the conscious mind fades, another mind takes over. One that doesn't speak in words or obey logic. It doesn't care for your schedule, your priorities, or your reputation. It has only one goal, truth. And it speaks in the language of dreams. We call it the unconscious. It's easy to underestimate it. We picture the unconscious like a forgotten storage unit, a dusty attic filled with old memories and stray emotions. But that's not what it is. The unconscious is alive, active, relentless. It remembers everything your conscious mind tries to forget. And it's watching you, even now. Every unspoken fear, every shame you pushed away, every truth you weren't ready to face. The unconscious has it, cataloged, filed, waiting, not to punish you, but to protect the integrity of your being. Because the more you lie to yourself, the louder it speaks. And one of its favorite ways to speak is through recurring dreams. Sigmund Freud was among the first to try and map this territory in a systematic way. He believed that dreams were disguised wish fulfillments, the mind's way of getting around internal censorship. When you want something you can't admit, even to yourself, the unconscious sneaks it into your dreams, twisted, symbolic, masked in metaphor. Freud saw the dream as a problem to be solved, a code to be cracked. But Carl Jung saw something deeper. To him, the dream wasn't hiding a wish. It was revealing a truth, a psychic balance trying to correct itself. When your waking life goes too far in one direction, the unconscious sends dreams to pull you back, to show you what's been lost, repressed, denied. The dream is a mirror, but it's warped, like the ones in old carnival fun houses. It distorts, not to deceive, but to show what you'd otherwise refuse to. See, think about it. Why do certain dreams come back over and over? Why that one hallway? Why that one fear? Why that one person from your past, frozen in a moment that never really ended? The answer isn't found in dream dictionaries or quick internet explanations. It's found in the architecture of your own mind. Recurring dreams form when emotional energy gets trapped, when a wound goes unhealed. When a pattern refuses to change, they're not just stories. They're psychic loops. And unless you intervene, they'll keep spinning night after night because the unconscious doesn't forget. Take the common dream of being chased. Most people assume it's just a primal fear, fight or flight mechanics carried into sleep. But look deeper. Who or what is chasing you? Is it a stranger? An animal? A version of yourself? What does it want? Or more precisely, what are you refusing to face? Or dreams of falling, not just slipping, but plunging, spiraling into the abyss. Freud might say you're confronting a fear of loss, powerlessness, or death. Jung might suggest you've lost contact with the grounding forces in your life, your purpose, your identity, your sense of stability. In both views, the dream is telling you the same thing. Something beneath the surface is collapsing. Then there are dreams of being unprepared. You're back in school. You forgot the test. You missed the deadline. You walk into a room and realize you're naked. You're not just embarrassed, you're exposed. These dreams don't lie. They reflect the parts of us still plagued by imposter syndrome, fear of judgment, fear of failure. And every time we fake our way through the day, these dreams return. At night to reveal the cost. But not all recurring dreams are nightmares. Some are emotional traps, seductive loops that recreate unresolved longing. You keep dreaming of an old relationship, a childhood home, a place you've never seen but somehow recognize. These are psychic placeholders, the symbols your unconscious uses to represent what you're still grieving. Not because you miss the person or place exactly as it was, but because you miss what they meant to you, who you were then, who you might have become. These dreams are ghosts, not of other people, but of possible selves. And the more you ignore them, the more they haunt you. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Sometimes recurring dreams aren't about the past. Sometimes they're warnings about the present. Repetition is the unconscious mind's way of escalating the message. First it whispers, then it nudges, then it screams. And when you still refuse to listen, it loops over and over. Not to punish, to break through. The dream is trying to do what your waking mind refuses to pull you into confrontation. To force a reckoning, what are you avoiding? What truth? Are you denying? What change do you keep postponing? The unconscious doesn't care about your excuses. It only cares about what's real. And until the real is faced, it will keep sending the same message, wrapped in different symbols, but always carrying the same emotional charge. That's what makes recurring dreams so powerful. They don't just replay events. They replay emotions. They bring you back to a feeling you haven't resolved. And that feeling will stay with you, not just in dreams, but in subtle, invisible ways during the day. Irritability, anxiety, restlessness, a chronic sense of being off course. We think these are personality flaws, but sometimes they're just symptoms of an ignored dream. Your unconscious is not asleep. It's wide awake, observing, organizing, reminding. And every time you push something out of consciousness, it absorbs it. Every time you lie, it notes it. Every time you bury a feeling, it stores it. You can trick your friends. You can even trick yourself. But you can't trick the unconscious. And the more you try, the more it speaks out in the voice of your dreams. What if your dreams were not entirely yours? What if the recurring symbols, the repeated locations, even the emotional tone of your dreams had been tampered with? We like to imagine dreams as sacred ground, the last untouched frontier of the human soul. A place so deeply internal that no ideology, no advertisement, no algorithm can reach it. But that belief is a lie, a comforting illusion, because the systems that shape our waking life, capitalism, media, surveillance, culture, don't stop working when we fall asleep. They simply change form. They sink deeper. They become invisible. They infiltrate. And that's what makes them so dangerous. You wake up in a panic. You saw yourself failing again, embarrassed again, alone again, and you think, why do I keep dreaming this? But you never ask, who benefits from me believing it? Because modern society doesn't just shape your reality, it shapes your imagination. And the unconscious mind, while powerful, is also porous. Every day it absorbs imagery, narratives, fears, ideals. It stores them like puzzle pieces. Then at night, it builds with what it's been given. So when a culture feeds you a steady diet of inadequacy, that you're not rich enough, attractive enough, successful enough, don't be surprised when your dreams reflect those anxieties back to you. The architecture of your dreams is partially built with the propaganda of the waking world. The algorithms know this. Every scroll, every ad, every headline is a tiny incision in your inner world. They teach you what to want, what to fear, what to aspire to. Then, slowly, those manufactured ideals find their way into your dreams. You dream of climbing a mountain but never reaching the top. You dream of a party you're never invited to, a test you didn't study for, a spotlight that burns instead of uplifts. These aren't just personal fears. They are systemic templates, installed through repetition, reinforced by culture. We've been trained to internalize competition, to chase performance, to fear judgment. So our dreams follow the same logic. We fail, we fall, we chase, we wake up breathless and call it a personal issue. But it's not just yours. It's engineered. And here's the twist. When you pathologize your dreams, when you treat them as personal disorders, you never question the system that implanted them. You go to therapy to fix your recurring anxiety dreams, but not once do you ask why your entire society runs on chronic stress, artificial scarcity, and constant surveillance. What if your nightmares are logical reactions to an insane world? What if your subconscious isn't broken, but trying to alert you? This is the real genius of modern control. It doesn't just colonize your actions. It colonizes your interiority. It gets inside, make itself at home in your dreams. And then, when you suffer from the effects, it convinces you you're the problem. But there is nothing natural about having the same dream of failure or exposure for 10 years. Nothing random about a generation plagued by anxiety dreams, apocalypse, imagery, or being endlessly watched. These aren't just symptoms of personal trauma. They're symptoms of cultural infection. Let's go deeper. Dreams used to be sacred in many ancient societies. They were viewed as messages from the divine, revelations from the soul, or warnings from the ancestors. But in modern culture, dreams are considered meaningless. At best, neurological junk. At worst, embarrassing indulgences. Why? Because a culture that wants obedience has no use for a citizen who listens to their dreams. A dreamer is dangerous. A dreamer might question, disobey, create, withdraw, reimagine. So we're taught to suppress dreams, to laugh them off, to view them as irrelevant or worse, shameful. This is how the system stays safe, by disconnecting you from the one part of yourself it can't directly control, until you start to control it for them. Think of dream hacking not as science fiction, but as a current reality. Consider the way the media shapes your mental imagery, the way trauma imprints itself on your inner world, the way ambient stress rewires the emotional tone of your sleep. This is already happening, and it leads to a chilling conclusion. Your recurring dreams might be surveillance devices. Not in the literal sense, not as bugs planted by the NSA, but as emotional echoes of a world watching you, judging you, defining your worth. And if you're not conscious of that, your unconscious simply becomes a mirror of the dominant culture, which means your dreams are no longer yours. They've been hijacked. But it doesn't have to stay this way, because the unconscious is not passive. It's adaptive. If it can be infiltrated, it can also be reclaimed. The first step is awareness. To start asking, what cultural story is this dream echoing? What system benefits from me believing this fear? Whose definition of success, beauty, or meaning is haunting me in my sleep? The second step is creative defiance. Begin introducing different images into your life, not ads, but art, not noise, but silence, not endless scrolling, but contemplation. Feed your psyche richer symbols, because your dreams build with the material you provide. If you feed your unconscious with soul-nourishing stories, with poetry, myth, emotion, depth, you may begin to dream differently. And when your dreams change, so does your waking life. Because here's the final paradox. We think dreams are shaped by our lives, but often it's the other way around. Your dreams, the recurring ones, the ones you can't explain, the ones that keep following you, might be the most honest thing you experience in a day, but only if you're brave enough to listen, and brave enough to ask, who else is speaking through my dreams? Some dreams don't fade when you wake up. They cling to you, stubborn, unfinished, unresolved. You try to shake them, distract yourself, scroll past them, but they always return, in different forms, with the same feeling. These are the dreams that refuse to die, and they don't return to torment you. They return because you haven't yet heard them. There's a strange intelligence to the unconscious. It's not random. It's not just noise. It's layered, symbolic, ancient. And when it sends you the same dream over and over again, it's not being lazy. It's being precise. It's showing you a message you haven't decoded yet, a wound you haven't touched, a truth you're still afraid to name. But instead of listening, most people try to suppress the dream. They label it a problem, medicate it, avoid sleep, or numb themselves with screens. And in doing so, they treat the symptom as the enemy. But the dream is not the enemy. The dream is the messenger. The refusal to listen, that's the enemy. So why does a dream return again and again? Because it's a story waiting for resolution. And stories, like wounds, don't close until they've been seen. Think of the unconscious like a child tugging at your sleeve, saying, "Look." Every time you ignore it, it tugs harder. Not to annoy you, but because it loves you, because it wants to be whole, because it remembers something you forgot. Many recurring dreams are about failure, embarrassment, being chased, falling, being trapped, or missing something important. And we often treat these dreams like punishments. But what if they're invitations? What if your recurring dream of falling isn't about danger, but about your relationship to surrender? What if the test you're always unprepared for isn't about school, but about your fear of judgment? What if the faceless figure chasing you is a disowned part of yourself trying to return home? The most terrifying dreams often contain the most valuable truths, but only if we're willing to feel them. And that's the hard part, because recurring dreams don't respond to analysis. They respond to presence. You can't outthink them. You have to sit with them, let them speak. Let them show you where you're still hiding from your own life, and this is where things begin to shift. Because once you stop treating the dream as an intruder and begin treating it as an oracle, something remarkable happens. The dream begins to change. It softens. It opens. It offers you new scenes, new symbols. Not because you forced it, but because you finally listened. There are documented cases in psychology where patients had the same nightmare for years, until they faced the fear inside the dream consciously. One woman kept dreaming of being chased by a monster. Her therapist told her, "Next time, stop running, turn around." And she did. In the next dream, she faced the monster, and it stopped. It looked at her and said, "Why did you run from me for so long?" She never had the dream again. That is the moment a dream dies. Not through avoidance, not through control, but through integration. When you face the dream directly, when you engage it with presence, curiosity, and compassion, It has no reason to repeat, because its work is done. Its message was delivered, and your soul can move forward. But here's where it gets even more profound. Some recurring dreams don't die because they're not just about your personal wounds. They're about ancestral ones, cultural ones, collective ones. You might carry a dream that your mother had, or your grandfather, or your people, and you don't even know it. Because trauma is not just passed down in blood. It's passed down in silence, in fear, in imagery. So when a dream returns endlessly, it might not be asking you to fix it. It might be asking you to witness it, to give it the attention no one else ever gave, to become the one in your lineage who finally turns toward the pain instead of away. That's not pathology. That's a sacred task. We often ask, how do I stop this dream? But maybe the real question is, what is this dream trying to finish? What cycle is trying to close? What part of me is trying to speak? Because if you go deep enough, every recurring dream leads to the same place. The parts of yourself that you've exiled, the child who wasn't protected, the voice that was never heard, the emotion that was too overwhelming to feel. These parts don't die. They just dream. And they wait patiently for your return. So here's the paradox. The dream that haunts you might actually be your deepest source of healing, if you face it, if you feel it, if you stop asking it to leave and start asking it to teach you. And once you do, the dream changes. The falling stops, the chase ends, the room opens, the storm clears, because the dream is not trying to scare you. It's trying to restore you. And when that happens, the recurring dream doesn't need to die because it has already transformed. And so have you. At the center of every recurring dream is a narrative, one you didn't choose, but one you've learned to live inside. A story that says, you are not safe. You are not worthy. You are too late, too small, too much. It's not just a dream you're stuck in, it's a script. And like an actor repeating the same scene night after night, your unconscious keeps rehearsing it, hoping you'll win. They see the story for what it is, a distortion, a trap, a belief begging to be unlearned. This is the real purpose of a dream, not just to show you images, but to reveal the storyline beneath your survival patterns. Because if you can name the story, you can change it. But until then, it controls you, silently, invisibly. Every time you dream of failing, running, breaking, or vanishing, that narrative tightens its grip. So where did it come from? Sometimes it began in childhood, a single moment where your nervous system said, this is how the world works. I'm not enough unless I perform. I'm only loved when I'm silent. I must keep everyone happy to stay safe. That belief gets encoded. It becomes reality. And because it was never questioned, your dreams keep recreating it, not to punish you, but to give you another chance to interrupt it. Dreams are rehearsals for emotional resolution, but they only work if you engage. If you don't, they repeat the same unresolved arc. But if you enter the dream consciously, even through memory or imagination, and change the ending, everything begins to shift. This is where dream healing becomes more than symbolic. It becomes somatic, neurological, real. Let's say you have a recurring dream where you're trying to scream but no sound comes out. It's a classic motif of repression, voicelessness, suffocation. Instead of analyzing it from a distance, imagine re-entering the dream while awake. Close your eyes, feel the moment. And now, instead of freezing, scream in your body, in your imagination, in your nervous system. Complete the arc. Give your body the experience it never had. This is what trauma expert Peter Levine calls completing, the self-protective response. Your body doesn't just need a new idea, it needs a new experience. And dreams give you a portal into that. because the unconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. If you change the dream with full presence, the body updates, the story shifts, the nervous system begins to rewrite its patterns, and the dream loses its grip. This is why some people find that once they reimagine the ending of a nightmare, the dream either stops or evolves. A locked door opens, a faceless attacker disappears. A chase turns into a conversation because you've stepped out of the role you were cast into and rewritten the script. But there's more. The stories we carry inside are often not ours alone. They're inherited from family, culture, religion. You might carry the narrative of your father's silence, your mother's shame, your culture's fear. You dream it because it's alive in you, not by choice, but by legacy. And healing that narrative means breaking the cycle you didn't ask for, but were chosen to transform. This is why healing dreams isn't just a personal task. It's ancestral, even archetypal. When you rewrite your dream, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing everyone who lived inside that story before you. You're interrupting generations of silence, guilt, repression, and fear. You're doing sacred work. And here's the beautiful paradox. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to feel what was never felt, say what was never said, choose what was never chosen. That's what shifts the dream. Dreams change when you change your relationship to the emotion underneath, when you stop fearing the fear, when you turn toward the shame, when you hold the grief instead of bypassing it. That's how the story loses its power. Not because it vanishes, but because you witnessed it consciously, and this witnessing is what the inner child, the original dreamer, has been waiting for, because beneath every recurring dream is a child self still locked in a moment that didn't make sense, still trying to find safety, still hoping someone will come and say, "I see you. I hear you. You weren't wrong. You didn't deserve that." When you become that someone, when you offer your younger self the voice they didn't have, the safety they didn't feel, you don't just heal a dream, you heal an identity. And when that identity heals, the dream shifts from a warning into a window, a map, a revelation. Because now you're not running from something, you're returning to something. Something ancient, something true. Something forgotten but waiting. So if you keep dreaming the same thing over and over again, ask yourself, what belief lives inside this dream? Whose voice does it echo? What part of me is still trapped inside that moment? And what would it mean to change the ending? Because when you change the ending of the inner narrative, the dream doesn't just end. It evolves. And you do too. Every recurring dream carries a hidden narrative, a story you didn't write, but still live inside. Maybe it whispers that you're not safe, not enough, always failing. It's not just a dream, it's a loop. And your unconscious keeps rehearsing it, not to torment you, but to offer a chance to see it. These dreams are emotional scripts, born from early beliefs like, I must please to be loved or my voice isn't safe. Left unexamined, these beliefs become architecture. You don't just think of them, you dream of them. Over and over. Until you change the ending. That's the key. When you revisit a dream, not with fear, but with conscious presence, something extraordinary happens. You interrupt the story. You scream when you freeze. You open the door you always feared. You give your nervous system a new experience, and your body updates. The dream evolves. Healing a dream isn't just symbolic. It's somatic, neurological, generational. Because often, the story in your dream isn't just yours, it's inherited. It's your mother's shame, your father's silence, your culture's fear. And when you break that loop, you're healing a lineage.